What's up YouTube, it's your boy Nash here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another episode of Yu-Gi-Oh's Biggest Issue. This week's episode is actually on the history of the Gusto archetype. Now Gustos, they were unique. They were a unique archetype that did see a lot of play back in the day, but it wasn't as like the archetype wasn't as meta defined as some of the other archetypes that we had that we had in the Hidden Arsenal series. like Mist Valleys and Dragoonity and whatnot. Those were the meta defined decks, but this archetype, it just wasn't as like meta defined as people thought. But it is a but it was released in Duel Terminal Raid of the Inverse, which is actually, as the name suggests, is a dual terminal archetype that is wind attribute, and their name and their symbol, if you will, is a circle with a silver whirlwind inside of it. And the synchro monsters, they seem to be combined from the combined form of the of two monsters that appear. What is up with this thing? Okay, that works. Why does not? So basically, they're like combined, if you will. And the evidence is basically in their level sum, if you will. So I guess it's like their, the way you synchro summon, basically. The archetype consists of several types: Wing Beast, Psychic, Thunder, Rock, and Pyro. The Wing Beasts contain most of the Gusto tuners, with the exception of Gusto Coder and Gusto Griffin. But there are exceptions, and one of them is Gusto Squiro, which is Thunder, and all the synchros and Xyz have the archetype of Daigusto in their name, which Gusto and Daigusto is basically the same thing. The archetype's main strategy is based on tightening their defense and loading up the graveyard completely. And because that most of the support for the Gusto archetype requires shuffling two or more Gustos back into the deck relies heavily on the tactics of defense. And it begins with its trio of searchers, which is what we refer to it as the recruiter loop. So you would have Winda, Priestess of Gusto, Gusto Guldo, and Gusto Eagle, I believe are the three cards. Those three cards can continuously search one another out of the deck when they are destroyed in battle and sent to the graveyard, while simultaneously filling the graveyard with monsters as well, which could later then be utilized with effects such as Cam, Serenity of Gusto, and Pilka, Descendant of Gusto, and their synchro monsters also. Overall, though, it's interesting because overall the decks naturally are very passive, and they are so resilient when it comes to their defense their defense strategy and their overwhelming recycling and draw power. And when it's built correctly, the deck can be a surprise for an unwary opponent that has little that has little effort. And by that I mean going up against aggressive type decks and OTK based decks as well. Now because this is a dual terminal archetype, you know what that means. It ties into the dual terminal world and the battles that ensued in the DT world. So the Gusto is a tribe that lived within the wind and worships the bountiful land, if you will. And they lived on that land since ancient times. But against their various outside enemies, they were able to link their hearts together with a battle along animals that lived around in order to protect their homeland through the generations. However, the SteelSwarms took over the surface land, and the Gustos had to unite with the other clans to create a temporary alliance, if you will, which was led by the Vylons, which I did a video on just 2 weeks ago, actually. I was looking at my book here. Because of this alliance, if you will, they gained new powers to fight back the SteelSwarms, and soon the Union finally had defeated the SteelSwarm invaders. But the conflict was not over yet, as the Vylons decided to stop the wars between the other clans by exterminating them entirely. And then later on, the Gustos had teamed up once again with the other clans in order to stop the actions of the Vylons. Once they were able to stop the Vylons, the union between the tribes had completely disbanded. But at that time, the Gusto tribes were in danger of being attacked by the Gishkis, and the Gishkis had claimed goals, if you will, had goals to claim, if you will, with, or rather they had goals to claim all the Mist Valley resources, if you will, by using themselves for their rituals, if you will. Fortunately, the Gem Knights had a suspicion that something like this would happen, so they lent their powers to protect the Gusto tribes from being in danger, and then the SteelSwarms had appeared and completely not only threatened but also destroyed the entire world. The Gustos had no choice but to join forces with the Gem Knights and the Constellars to swap the SteelSwarms for good, in which the SteelSwarm will actually be next week's episode. Crazy enough, it'll be next week's episode, and then the Constellars will be after that, then the Evil Swarm, and then X-Sabers, if there's a story behind that. I might do that one, but yeah. But, however, moving on, after the war against the SteelSwarms and Sophia ended, it was known that the only survivor of the Gusto tribe were Kamui and Reese. Shortly after, those two formed a family and Pilika was born. No one knows, it's unknown what happened to Reese at this point, but Kamui, along with Pilika at some point created a brand new tribe while inheriting their ability of communicating with nature, and into their successors, which gave birth to a brand new generation. Which is interesting because when you think about it, the Gustos, they may have been able to fend off against the SteelSwarms, but there was not much that they could do. But there's actually a list here of the connections that the Gustos had, either with their own tribe or with outsiders. So we have to go down the line, if you will. We have Gusto Guldo, and when the Priestess of Gusto, you had Daigusto Guldos, Gusto Eagle, and Windar Sage of Gusto. You get Daigusto Eagles. You have Camp Serenity of Gusto and Gemini Emerald. You get Daigusto Emerald, which is interesting. You have Winda Priestess of Gusto, and then Shadal plus Paolo, Wind of the Yangzing. You get El Shadal Winda, and then you have Pelica Descendant of Gusto, and Spiritual Beast Repengu. You get Daigusto La Plam Pilica, I believe is the name. There are several decks that were released over the years, and some of those decks include Pure Gusto, Metal Gusto, Synchro Gusto, Gust Valley, Psychic Gusto, Tempest Gusto, and Symphonic Gusto. So, looking at a Pure Gusto build, this build would feature cards like Camp Serenia Gusto, Contact with Gusto, and Daigusto Guldos, which would help you create an OTK board, if you will. This deck became even more powerful, if you will, with the release of the Kaijus and Interrupted Kaiju Slumber as well, and even also cards like Emergency Teleport would help drastically, because this archetype had psychic type monsters as well. E-Tele could help out summon your synchro plays and help you go into your Xyz plays if needed. Now the pure builds also utilize cards like Call of the Haunted, Oasis of Dragon Souls, Totem Bird, and even also powerful Rebirth as well, which was crazy. It's a pretty crazy build. I can tell you that right now. It was a pretty crazy build. Now Metal Gusto, you utilized the Metal Foes, we didn't get Metal Foes until like, what was it, Dark Illusion, if I remember correctly. I think we didn't get them until the Dark Illusion, if I remember correctly. So you would use cards like Metal Foes Counter, Metal Foes Fusion, Shrine of Mist Valley, Gusto Griffin, Metal Foes, Adamanti, which I believe is short for Adamantium, which is an alloyed metal. Which is actually a alloyed metal that it's an X-Men reference, basically. and it will also be able to use, and will also utilize Camp Serenity of Gusto to again just create different different boards and whatnot, and basically just be able to help you go into your synchro plays a lot faster. Synchro Gusto, I really don't need to explain this one. This was basically just a synchro spamming deck, utilizing the synchron cards such as Jungs Synchron, Quick Draw Synchron, Jet Synchron when it was still legal, cards like Tuning, Reinforcement of the Army, and even also using cards like summoning cards like cards like shooting Quasar Dragon, Stardust Warrior, Drill Warrior as well, just to name a few. What were some of the other cards that they could use to summon? Miss Bird, Colossalist, Black Rose, Moonlight Dragon, Clearwing, Synchro Dragon, Scrap Dragon, Miss Worm, Trishula, Stardust Dragon, Shooting Star Dragon, High Speed Roy Kendama, Black Rose Dragon, Excel Synchron, Jet Warrior, Drill Warrior, Junk Destroyer, Ally of Justice, Catastor, really broken card. Trishula I mentioned, Dagosto Falcos, Chevalier de Fleur, and even also too, one of the main link monsters that you can use in this deck, in particular, is actually Greatfly, because Greatfly can really help you out with your synchro plays as well. So those are just some of the synchros that you can use. You can even also use Goyo Guardian, Army Keeper of Boundaries, just to name a few of them. And then of course you have Gust Valley. Basically, it's Gustos and Mist Valleys together. Basically, you having cards like Archetype Magician, and also Mist Valley Thunder Lord, which is actually the strongest monster in the whole archetype. Actually, being they're basically being utilized for adding draw power, and to also grant access to most of the Gusto synchros as well. So it's another synchro spam. But because that Gen X ally Birdman got limited on the September 2013 ban list, which I'm actually going to look that up online. What was the list back then? Here we are, TCG. Let's take a look. So the cards that got banned at the time, you had Brionic, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, Burner, Dragon Ruler of Sparks, Chaos Emperor Dragon, Cyberjar, Cyber Sign, Demok, Dark Strike Fighter, Destiny Hero Disc Commander, Element Hero Stratos, Fiberjar, Fishborg Blaster, Glowbo, Goyo Guardian, Lightning, Dragon Ruler of Drafts. I think all of the baby rulers got banned as well. Magical Scientist, Magician of Faith, Makiora the Destructor, Mind Master number 16. Yeah. Basically, all the baby dragons, all the baby rulers, if you will, got banned. Rescue Cat, Sangan, Sinister Serpent, Substitute, Thousand Restrict, Tribe Affected Virus, Trishula, Victory Dragon, Wind Up Carriers and Mighty, Witch of the Black Forest, and Yatagarasu got banned. For the monsters, the spells, you had Brain Control, Butterfly Dagger, obviously given the fact that it would be comboed off with Gear Free the Iron Knight, Card Destruction, Card Safe Return, Change of Heart, Cold Wave, Confiscation, Delinquent Duo, Dimension Fusion, Future Fusion, Gateway of the Six, Giant Trunate, Graceful Charity, Harvey's Feather Duster, Heavy Storm, Last Will, Mass Driver, Metamorphosis, Mirage of Nightmare, Monster Reborn, Painful Choice, Pot of Avarice, Pot of Greed, Premature Burial, Rikeki Snatch Steel, Spellbook of Judgment, Super Rejuvenation, Temple of the Canes, and the Forceful Sentry. The traps that got banned, you had Crush Card, and Exchange of the Spirit, Imperial Order, Last Turn, Ring of Destruction, Royal Oppression, Solemn Judgment, Time Seal, and Ultimate Offering. Cards that got limited at this time, you had cards like Blacklist Soldier, Envoy the Beginning, Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind, Constellar Ptolemy M7, Dark Arm Dragon, Deep Sea Diva, DeLorean, Tiger King the Ice Barrier, Gen X Ally Birdman got limited as well, Honest got limited, Gores got limited, Morphine Jar got limited, Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon got limited, the 5 pieces of Exodia got limited, Allure of Darkness got limited as well because of all of the different dad decks that were just out there in the world. Rhoda got limited at the time. So many cards got banned and whatnot. It was crazy back then. It was crazy back then. And funny enough, I didn't get back into Yu-Gi-Oh until actually 2016. 2016. But anyway, yeah, with the but yeah, with Birdman being limited in that ban list, the deck suffered a major decrease in its consistency, with also the limitation of Divine Wood and Mist Valley, and the January 2014 list rendered the deck unplayable, as well, with the limitation of Divine Wind as well, and also utilizing Mist Valley Falcon and Thunderlord. It was a good deck, but once Birdman and Divine Wind got limited, the deck was just dead. There was also Psychic Gusto, which again was a bunch of psychic monsters and Gustos, and also Tempest Gusto, which basically used Tempest, Dragon Ruler of Storms, which currently now in the meta is limited, and then you also and we'll also use cards like Dragon Ravine and Dragoon Gay Durg as well. And then Symphonic Gusto, which I believe used the Symphonic Warriors. We didn't get those until I think sometime in Arc 5, if I remember correctly. I want to say Secrets of Eternity, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. And then also using cards like Levia the Sea Dragon, Cyber Dragon Nova, and Infinity, which is crazy because the Symphonic Warriors are machines. If I remember correctly, if I remember right. I believe they are machines. If I remember correctly. Hang on, guys. Let me look here. Symphonic Warrior Guitar. I believe they are machine. Yeah, I was right. Because the Symphonic Warriors were all machines. It made things easier for you to summon to summon Nova and then go into Infinity as well, which is pretty crazy. So as far as as far as the weakness of this of some of these decks, because that they were so heavy on defense and also spamming boards, with a bunch of synchros, there were so many cards that they could use to completely incapacitate the deck. Transmigration Break was one of them that can easily stop recycling. Stop the recycling of the monsters. Gravekeeper decks. Cards like Necro Valley that can stop the plays that can stop the plays of the graveyard. That can stop Cam and Daigusto Goldos. Archlord Christia, Falsodina, Summon Limit, Poisonous Winds is a really good one because they're all anti-special summon cards. So anything that's anti-meta can easily stop Gustos. Cards like Shadal's, Nekroz, cards like Abyss Dweller, Soul Drain, UA Mighty Slugger, Archfiend, Black Skull Dragon, MST, Dust Tornado, Fairy Wind, Trap Stun, Macrocosmos, just to name some of those cards. Those cards like those can easily stop this archetype. Now the question is, could we see support for them in the future? It's hard to say because even though we did get new support in this set, Dawn of Majesty, I really don't see this archetype getting any additional support, just because I don't really think Gustos are going to be as powerful as they used to be back in the day. I know that they actually got a couple of tops back in 2014, 2015, right around there, and I know that I think it got a couple of YCS tops back in the day. I know that it did get a couple of regional tops as well, but I really don't see this archetype getting any further support other than from Dawn of Majesty. I know that we are going to be getting Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1, I think in January of next year. We were supposed to have gotten it in November, but because of the pandemic, that is no longer the case. But guys, that brings me to the question of the day. Do you guys want to see Gustos get more support? Let me know in the comments below, and that is going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button if you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh's Biggest Issue, which gets posted every Friday. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you guys do not miss out on any new content that comes your way. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. All the links will be down in the description below. And if you guys have fan mail that you want to send me and want me to open up on the channel, my address will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.